Hello, and welcome again to Brooklyn Law School's series on law in time of crisis. Today, we're actually going to be talking a little bit more about lawyering in times of crisis, thinking about the impact of a crisis like the one we find ourselves in now on legal education and on the legal profession. And no one better to talk about those things with than our own Professor Heidi Brown, Director of Brooklyn Law School's Legal Writing Program. I am Michael Cahill, Dean here at Brooklyn Law School, and delighted to be joined by Professor Brown today. Now, of course, in the last month or two, we've really seen well-being issues, not only issues of physical health, but also of mental health as people have been confined to their own homes, really being foregrounded. So how do you see that crisis changing things, and what do you think the world will look like as we continue to go through this situation and as we emerge from it?
So, throughout the legal profession, legal education, and law practice, everyone's been adjusting to working at home, at the same time balancing caregiving responsibilities, being around family members while also trying to be productive in our professional lives. At the same time, many individuals are grappling with very real issues of trauma, vicarious trauma, grief, fear, anxiety, worries about the future. I know even for myself, this going through this process, the process of isolation, but also watching the news all the time, it's sort of re-triggering issues and things that I thought I had really worked through and resolved in the past, 9/11 issues, personal issues, that this situation that we're all going through is sort of stirring up again. So going forward, when we come out of this situation, which we will come out of it, the institutions that take a really hard, careful look at the mental health and well-being of all of their constituencies, from law students to administrative staff to lawyers to judges to law faculty to clients, the institutions that really seriously take a look at this and put systems and structures in place to help all members of the community are really going to thrive. I like to look at well-being and mental health sort of looking at how the sports industry does it. We don't look down on or judge or stigmatize athletes or other performers when they need some help with mental health issues or emotional health issues or physical health issues that are affecting their performance. So there's no reason for us in the legal profession to look at it that way either. This is just something that is a very real situation we're all going through that is going to affect our performance. And so the institutions and entities that take a look at ways to nurture and help people come through this and thrive are going to be the successful ones and bring everyone together when we emerge from this.
Thinking specifically of our role as legal educators, and more specifically of your role as a legal educator, I can take a minute again to boast about something that has happened and was in the works before I came here a year ago. So last year, we authorized and approved a significant overhaul of our first year legal writing curriculum. And this year, we have been implementing that change. So year one of a dramatically different first year legal writing program. Could you spend a little time explaining to us what the changes were and how they were going through the moment when we went online a month ago, and then maybe we can pick up there.
So this year we launched a significant change to the legal writing program at Brooklyn Law School. We added credits to the year-long program, and in the fall we beefed up our research curriculum, giving students more opportunity to practice legal research. But the most significant change was the launch of a completely new course that we call Gateway to Lawyering. And in the course, we teach students how to understand and interpret and wrestle with a complex statutory framework. And then we designed 3 different writing assignments to really introduce Brooklyn Law students to real life writing assignments that lawyers are doing out there in the world right now in 2020. And a really interesting assignment that we launched this year was an electronic client alert. So we taught students this brand new way of writing, new to me at least as a teacher and as a lawyer. And students had to write about the complex statutory framework, but in a public-facing document, in an electronic client alert that a law firm could put on its website. And we gave students a lot of leeway in terms of aesthetics and look and feel and visuals, and they did such an amazing job. taking this complicated statutory schema and breaking it down into terminology and a narrative that the public could understand. And they injected a lot of enthusiasm into creating visual design, and it turned out to be a really incredible assignment, and one that's really tangible and useful in today's legal economy.
You, of course, literally wrote the book on introversion in lawyering, The Introverted Lawyer by Heidi Brown. Look for it online, probably not at a retailer near you in the current situation, but available online. Maybe you can say a little bit about how particularly more quiet or introverted students are affected in good ways or bad by the transition to online learning.
When we adjusted to online teaching and remote learning and remote working, as an introvert, at first I thought, I've totally got this. I love working at home. But even for me, I've noticed that my energy level wanes, or it increases or decreases depending on what tasks I'm doing throughout the day. So it's really made me pay close attention to how online learning and online studying is affecting our students. I've done a lot of research, obviously, in writing the book about the differences between introverts and extroverts. So introverts process information, stimuli, questions, and answers internally, whereas extroverts tend to do that externally. So in a fast-paced classroom environment or in a meeting, introverts might be perceived as slower or hesitant, or sometimes, unfortunately, not as intelligent, or not prepared, when in reality, the introvert is incredibly prepared usually, has a lot of thoughts going on at once, but just needs that time to process and reflect about the information before jumping in. In the classroom, that can be sometimes perceived as the student isn't participating enough when we teach through cold calling or the classic Socratic method. What I've been really incredibly impressed by and pleasantly surprised by is the way that online learning and online communication is giving students, our quieter students, this incredible new platform for participation more on their authentic level. So Zoom technology features like the hand raising feature or the chat feature really gives quieter students a chance to pause and reflect and process about all those competing stimuli, and then raise their hand through the hand raising feature without having to interrupt somebody to be heard, or participate using the chat feature without having to interrupt someone to be heard. Introverts resist interruption. I know I do. We resist interrupting other people. We feel sort of drained or exhausted by participating in conversations in which we have to interrupt somebody to be heard. And we also our thoughts can get a bit derailed when we are interrupted. So the technology platforms which enable quieter students to engage without having to interrupt somebody, or they can participate through writing, we're seeing an increase in participation. I was really excited to hear this buzz going around about the new Supreme Court telephonic oral arguments. So all on Twitter and also on cable news, I kept hearing this buzz about how Justice Thomas suddenly was an active participant, where he's normally quiet during oral arguments. I think the articles say that he doesn't often ask questions. He may have even gone several years without asking questions in the past. But suddenly, when the Supreme Court shifted to doing telephonic oral arguments, he is an active participant. There's new protocols for the Supreme Court telephonic oral arguments. The advocates get 2 minutes to present their opening statement without interruption. And then instead of the judges just interrupting the advocates with questions, there's a new protocol. The Chief Justice calls on each justice one at a time by seniority. So when I heard this, I thought, well, of course, if Justice Thomas is engaging in this new protocol, he must be an introvert. Now, I don't consider myself an expert on anything related to the Supreme Court, first of all, but certainly not their personality types. So I researched it, and sure enough, Justice Thomas has commented in the past about the fact that he's an introvert and he doesn't like to interrupt people. And I just thought that made perfect sense, that a quiet individual or a self-identified introvert would be much more active in a situation where they can be heard without having to interrupt somebody. So I thought that was a neat legal example of how introverts or quieter individuals really do thrive in certain new communications platforms related to the pandemic.
What have you been doing to deal with all of the fear and anxiety and uncertainty of this situation? Do you have any tips?
I've set up a daily schedule for myself, and I always start the day by writing. I love writing, obviously, since I'm a legal writing professor. But writing is really therapy for me and helps me process whatever is on my mind, whether it's positive, whether it's something I need to work through. So I've definitely been writing every day, which has been great. And then I decided I was going to buy a boxing bag, and I ordered one from Everlast, and it came in a box, and I had to put it together myself, which was very empowering. And now I spend at least 45 minutes to an hour a day just doing boxing drills in my kitchen with this giant boxing bag. And then I had been working with a boxing trainer before all this happened, and last week I felt like I'd sort of hit a lull in my stay-at-home workouts, and he had such a great idea, and he suggested that I go find a book bag or backpack and I fill it with books. And I thought, why am I doing that? And he actually had me fill the backpack with books, and he ran me through an entire hour of boxing drills with this backpack of books on my back. And it just really ramped up the exercise, but it also made me really appreciate that he, as a teacher, was improvising with tools that were just available in my apartment, but that also he tapped into something that I completely love, which is books and reading and teaching and learning. And I just thought it was such a cool way to combine all those things, but also using things that make me happy mentally and emotionally, but that could help me get stronger physically. So that's been my routine: get up and write, and then do my work, and then hit that boxing bag. And now I have my backpack of books.
Wow. Well, that is good advice. So we can go out and get a boxing bag and take out our anxiety and maybe some of our aggression on while doing a little fitness regimen as well. Well, we are certainly fortunate to have on our faculty someone who regularly thinks about issues that are always there in the profession and always there in legal education, but certainly have become even more prominent in the current environment and the current situation. And I hope it's proved helpful for our viewers to think about and work through some of these issues and contemplate the impact of the situation that we find ourselves in on education and on the profession as a whole. So many thanks to Professor Heidi Brown for this conversation, and hope to see you on our next installment of Law in Time of Crisis here at Brooklyn Law School. Thanks to you all for watching, and be well.